This is a story about orphans. Well, that sounds grim in the offset, right? On the contrary, these particular orphans are actually residing in a seemingly quite caring and beautiful place called Gracefield House. They are fed, taken care of, and special care is given to their physical and intellectual growth to the point where most of these kids play chess just for the fun of it. That sounds a little too happy for an orphanage, doesn't it? Well, the trio Emma, Norman, and Ray don't seem to think so. However, unknown to even their unprecedented intellect, sinister forces are at play in this orphanage. Maybe, just maybe, these kids who so anxiously anticipate adoption have horrors and revelations beyond their wildest comprehension awaiting them outside the borders of their sheltered orphanage. Episode 1. In the Gracefield House, an orphanage surrounded by lush forests and grasslands, three extremely intelligent orphans Emma, Norman, and Ray share a happy and structured life. In the morning, all 38 orphans get up for breakfast, their eyes filled with glee and anticipation for what the next day has to offer. Emma rouses everyone from their sleep and takes on the role of a house mom, helping them tie their shoelaces and caring for all the other orphans. On the breakfast table, they are joined by their guardian whom they affectionately refer to as Mother. Isabella, with her kind purple eyes and her long black hair, speaks to and treats the orphans there with motherly care and patience. The kids see her with reverence and as a role model, especially Emma who idolizes her above the rest. Emma, Norman, and Ray pass these tests with a perfect score, with Norman being known throughout the orphanage as the most intelligent of them all. However, they note that their intelligence is no match for Mother, whom they have never been able to beat in games like chess. The group then engages in a game of tag on the vast green fields and forests that surround the orphanage. Norman is it and he manages to quickly tag all of his peers with supreme ease. However, Emma is the only one left and her athletic abilities are able to evade Norman when they confront each other. She leaps over a crevasse, and prides herself in hiding from Norman. Just as when she's about to be home free hiding under the canopy of a tree, Norman feigns falling over and lures Emma out. Once he tags her, he mockingly tells Emma that she is too kind. Crowned winner of the first round, the group decides to engage in another game of tag where everyone except for Norman would be it. Almost immediately, he hides deep in the forest and the 37 orphans are completely unable to find him. Emma, taking the game very seriously and with her competitive spirit in overdrive, veers into the outer edge of the forest and stumbles into Norman gazing down the lower fence border. She quickly tags him and the other orphans catch up to them on the outer edge. Gazing into the wild expanse of the sky, the children wonder what the outside world looks like and anticipatedly dream of when they would be adopted and be able to see this world for themselves. Connie, a very young and passionate child in the orphanage, is going to be adopted on that very day. She is feeling very bittersweet and after a day full of enjoyment and fun, she bids a tearful farewell to her siblings. As Isabella carries her away from the Gracefield house and night dawns, the children reminisce on their time at the orphanage while also tearfully missing Connie's presence. It is here that things start to take a tragically grim turn and it all starts with Emma doing cleanup. At night while she is meticulously cleaning the orphanage, Emma stumbles onto Connie's very beloved stuffed animal, one she affectionately named Little Bunny. The orange-haired and green-eyed young girl immediately realizes that Connie would not be able to make a transition to her new home without Little Bunny by her side. It would be unfair to her to leave such a precious part of herself in the orphanage. She quickly calls Norman and the two decide to return the toy back to Connie before she is out of the orphanage's borders. They make their way out and go towards the distant garage where they believe Connie would be escorted out of the premises. There is a visibly suspicious truck lying in the stone corridor, which Emma assumes carries the luggage of Connie's belongings. She decides to place the doll in the back of the truck, and as she moves there, she discovers a horrific scene. Emma looks at Connie's lifeless and gray dead body and her entire body becomes stone cold. She titters back in shock and calls out Norman's name, hoping he would snap her back to reality by assuring her this isn't real. However, the white-haired genius is also taken aback and does not know how to react to seeing their lifeless young friend in front of them. Just as the two try to make sense of what has happened, they hear voices from the room next to them and immediately hide under the track, with their hands on their mouths. The horror simply won't give as Emma tries not to puke out of her mouth. The shadows she sees from the room resemble literal monsters. The silhouettes of these figures are not even shaped like humans, and this stuns the two beyond comparison. They listen in terror and try to stifle their screams as these creatures discuss how this farm has been breeding high-quality stock and the meat of the kids is serving the appetites of the rich and powerful demons. Naturally, what Emma wants to know is where their mother is. They want to run to her and inform her of these dystopian developments. These kids, who have been caged in this place since the time of their birth, have absolutely no idea what has just happened. Just when they're trying to quickly escape and find Isabella, they hear her resounding and heart-shattering name being called out by one of the demons, who congratulates her for delivering high-quality goods without any mishaps. She assures them that this uninterrupted flow will continue, but little does she know that two of the smartest orphans in her farm have realized the horrific world they occupy. In just a few moments and after such a random occurrence of events, the worlds of Emma and Norman are completely obliterated. They lose the ground beneath their feet and they come to the shocking conclusion that they are just livestock being readied and bred as meat for those filthy-looking demons. What's worse, Isabella is fully in on the act and is intentionally selling the orphans she pretends to care for off to their deaths. Instinctively, they take their chances before the demons come out of the room and run out of the garage. They do not stop running until they get back to the house, and just as they do, Emma collapses to the ground. She lets out a mournful and despondent scream which only Norman can hear. Her entire life has been a lie, and the person she looked up to the most has turned out to be a bloodthirsty child killer. She and everyone in her orphanage is just livestock. Their friend and sibling Connie, a literal child who was so excited to leave and explore the outside world, has died. Emma simply cannot comprehend the fact that just a few hours ago, the children were gleefully discussing how badly they anticipated the prospect of adoption and being able to explore the outside world. Now, she realizes that the outside world is one inhabited by demons. The outside world is full of horrors and gruesome violence beyond their imagination. That night, Emma and Norman begin to discuss their plan of action. Norman immediately tells her that they must escape, and this is a plan which appears to him as obvious. However, Emma refuses. She decides that the children simply cannot be left alone. She won't do them the dishonor of leaving them to die. For her, no one else can die now that the secret of this idyllic orphanage is out. For Norman, this is yet another game that hinges on strategy, just like chess or tag. All they have to do is bide their time before making the right move. They must plan things out in advance since their enemy is unknown and much stronger. Most importantly, Isabella herself is an enemy. They must make sure that their interactions with her are dictated not by emotion and instinct but by strategy. Hearing Norman's assuredness in the matter, Emma briefly stabilizes and takes comfort in the thought that at the very least, she is not alone in knowing this brutal truth. To their eventual despair, however, Isabella sees little Bunny lying on the floor right next to the truck containing Connie's dead body. She picks up the little doll, giving a faint smirk as she becomes aware of the fact that there are children who are sneaking around the place. Perhaps, she thinks to herself, one of the kids has discovered the truth? The truth about the orphanage has gotten out and it has fully blown open the farce which Isabella was running. How will the intelligent Norman and the athletic but emotional Emma deal with this new truth? How would their interactions with Isabella change, and would the latter actually realize which of the kids was sneaking around the truck? Finally, when will Emma and Norman decide to tell the other children, especially their friend Ray, about the monstrosities that run the Gracefield house?